C is the Civilian Conservation Corps. Now, Corps, Abram, it's not C-O-R-P, it's not C-O-R-E, it's C-O-R-P-S, like Marine Corps, Peace Corps, the Army Corps of Engineers. If you misspell it on the test, it's wrong. It's C-O-R-P-S, okay? The P and the S are silent, okay? Now, Corps is like a group, okay? A platoon, a corps, okay? Now, there was a major problem going on during the Depression is that youth unemployment was extremely high. So think about this. Were they going to give a job to somebody that's 18? Are they going to get a job to somebody that's 40 that has a family that they need to support? They're not going to give you the job. So when you've got a bunch of 18 to 25-year-old men hanging around, they're not going to college, they have nothing to do. Can you imagine this group in here with no job and nothing to do? We're going to find trouble, right? You guys are notorious. My 4th hour. Okay, now. Yes. Notorious? So, notable. Yeah, like, I told my second hour about 4th hour. So now you're notorious. What do you think? Disrupting my class, breaking out in laughter and giggling, these sorts of things.
We make this.
Yeah, for you.
Yes, especially for Blake, right? Really enjoying it for him right now.
So good, Blake.
Now, so we're going to take these 18 to 25-year-olds, 250,000 of them, and we're going to send them to the wilderness. Out in the middle of nowhere. And when I mean wilderness, guys, we're talking Wyoming, Montana, where there's nothing. And what are they going to do? They're going to send them out to the national parks, send them out to the national forests. They're going to cut or plant trees, okay, build fire lanes by cutting down trees, wilderness trails, stock fish, lakes, and rivers. And some will be sent to historic sites that they will help preserve for later generations to enjoy. So if you ever go to a national park, any of you guys been to any of our national parks? Which ones? Yellowstone? We did this yesterday? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, we have it for the recording. Okay? So, you go out there, if you go to a lot of these national parks today, you will see this, CCC. Okay? That this was built by the CCC. Okay? Now, they're going to pay these young men to do this work. $30 a month. It's $1 a day. Now, cash. You're not going to be able to keep this money. You got to send 25 back to your families. You get to keep $5 a month. Now listen, where are you going to go spend your $30 in the middle of nowhere in Montana? There's nowhere to spend your $30. So if you're in a camp with a bunch of other 18 to 25-year-olds and everybody got paid $30 a day, what are you going to do with that money? You're going to gamble. So you send 25 home, you get to keep 5. And sure, if you want to gamble your $5 down the drain, you're free to do that. Okay?
If you double your money,
Then you got 10. So, did any of you guys have Mr. Kenton in middle school for history? Okay. His grandfather was in a CCC. What? Yeah. Yeah. So this is kind of what the camp looked like, okay? So you're out in the middle of nowhere in your camp. So in order to eat, guess what you got to do? You got to hunt or fish. So you got to hunt and fish to survive, and then you got to work. And then you got to hunt and fish to survive, and then you got to work. This is a great thing for the young men that served in the CCC between 1933 and 1942. This really built some strong men, okay? Like knew how, had survival tactics, understood hard work, okay? This is maybe a good idea to do now. If we did this today. Now, we're not going to have the government pay for it. We're already $33 trillion in debt. Okay, we can't. Come on. We can't start new programs like this. So you do what? A private thing. So you get big businesses that say, look, we're going to need to hire employees in the future, but we want employees that know how to work. Okay. And so we'll help fund this, and then you'll have a job waiting for you after you complete your work in the corn. Get kids off the streets. We still have really high youth unemployment in this country. Okay, if you go to our big cities, a lot of them have parks, but a lot of people are brought up in areas where they get no real contact with nature. I mean, all they know is the streets, the concrete. You know what I mean? Get them outside of there. Okay, we used to have this thing called the boys ranch for like juvenile offenders, where like kids that got in trouble in Wichita, they go to juvie. Well, they'd send them out to the boys ranch out by Cheney Lake, okay, reservoir, and they would learn how to work. They'd work around farm animals and that sort of thing. And the number of kids that committed crime again dropped a lot. The kids that went there, the recidivism rates dropped. Okay, recidivism rate. You got that one, Hauserman? So the likelihood of once you commit a crime doing it again is a recidivism. Okay, you can bring those rates down. Like you get in trouble with the law, and then we reform you, we fix you. Maybe you don't do it again. But in this country, our recidivism rates are crazy high. Okay, so once you do it, you're likely to do it again. So maybe this is a good idea. You know, maybe if I was running for president, I'd pitch this to some big businesses and say, hey, you want some future good hard workers? Well, put up some money for this. Let's get these kids out the streets. Yeah, just me. The TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. This is still around. CCC is not, but the TVA is still around. Okay? And what this is, guys, is it's meant to help the economic region known as Appalachia. You guys heard of the Appalachian Mountains? Have you heard of the Blue Ridge Mountains? The Smoky Mountains? These are all in the east. Some of them in the southeast. And we all know the Rockies, right? I mean, the Rockies are famous. Yes? And we live pretty close to that. So if you travel east, guys, the eastern part of the United States, there's a lot more trees than there are out here. Right? A lot of trees. Okay. And these mountains, guys, are covered with trees because they're not above the tree line. Like, so when you go to, your 14,000 peak in the Rockies, okay, there's no trees up there. You know why? There's no trees growing up there? We looked it up. 0 hour. It has to do with the soil. It's not the air, because remember, trees emit oxygen. So yes, there's less oxygen up there, but they emit oxygen. They take in CO2. The soil temperature in the growing season is shorter. Okay, so trees can't survive up there. So you guys know what Bermuda grass is? It's kind of the viney grass that grows wild around here. The soil temperature has to be 55 degrees for Bermuda to grow. This is why if you go to Oklahoma, they have a lot more Bermuda down there, because the soil temperature stays warm. Okay, so I have Bermuda. Well, you guys been out on the practice soccer field over here? That's all Bermuda right now. Okay, it's beautiful right now, this time of year. But once we start getting some cold snaps, that stuff will start turning brown. Once the soil temperature drops to 55 degrees. Okay, does that make sense? And I have a lot of Bermuda on my infield at the baseball field. So I just overseeded it with what's called winter rye, perennial rye. So that stuff stays green when it's colder. So in the spring, it comes up green. And then the Bermuda gets warm enough, and the Bermuda takes over the rye. See it? So if you're looking for the nicest patch of grass on campus to have a picnic, that would be down at the baseball field on the infield. If you ever want to have a picnic, okay, just ask me and I'll give you the thumbs up that you can go have a picnic on the infield and have some beautiful grass to sit in. Thank you. And I mow it real short. Like I mowed it a half inch, quarter inch. So it's guys, I spend hours and hours and hours and hours on it. Okay, it's my baby. It looks way better than my yard at home. Okay. Much to my wife's chagrin. Okay, so if you go to northern Alabama, North Georgia, there's mountains up here. Okay, and these mountains extend up through Tennessee into Kentucky, West Virginia here. Okay, and they have different names depending on where you are. But this region is very economically depressed. Why? Well, it's not conducive to farming because of the rolling hills, the mountains, and so forth. So it's hard to do farming in this region. There's not a lot of industry there. There's very little industry there. So it's a very economically depressed area known as Appalachia. Okay? So if you ever do like mission trips for your church or something like that, a lot of churches will go to Appalachia to help people out. Okay, there. I think MTV had a show called, not Jersey Shore, the other one about the rednecks in West Virginia. What was that one called? What? So, you guys, okay, that's good. You didn't watch it. Okay. Now, anywhere you see letters on here, they built a dam. Okay, so they started building all these dams. There's a lot of rivers. So you can dam them up. And when you dam up a river, what do you get? Proper name? Not a lake, but a reservoir. It's the correct term for a man-made lake is a reservoir. Okay, it's a reservoir of water or a lake. Okay, so Cheney Reservoir. Okay, we have a dam out there. So when you build a dam, what do you get with that dam? What if it's got these turbines in the dam when they release water? What's that called? Floodgates that can be used to create what? Hydroelectric power. Is that clean? Is it cheap? I mean, it's expensive to build a dam, but after you build the dam, it's cheap electricity. You know what I mean? You just release water and it turns the turbines, and the turbines produce electricity. So they're going to provide, help protect against flood and give electric power to an area that suffers from lack of electricity. Now, you can get electricity from coal, and they have some coal mines in that region for sure, in West Virginia and so forth, Ohio, okay? Yeah, so all these dams are built, and you get a reservoir. Now, what can you do with all that water in the reservoir? You could go swimming, recreation, boating, fishing, skiing, tubing. Now, what happens to the property values around the lake? They go up. You know what else you can use that? What do we use the water from Cheney Reservoir for? To drink it. Now, if you have noticed a large construction project over by the zoo, across from the zoo, That is the largest construction project in the history of Wichita, a $400 million water treatment plant. So that nasty water coming out of the lake, Genie, can be cleaned up before we turn on our taps and drink it. You guys drink tap water? I do. I think our water's pretty good in Wichita. Even though we have the old, we got the old water treatment center. Guy, we're going to get a new one. So our water should be throw in a little fluoride, ready to go. We had a big debate a few years ago about fluoride in the water. You hear about it?
I think I saw on CNN in Coach Dawn's class.
Yeah, you go CNN 10. All right. Okay, so also you can use this water for irrigation, for farming. Okay, so this is going to boost the economies here. Okay, my sister lives in northeastern Tennessee, in a place called Morristown. It's gorgeous. I mean, they have beautiful lakes, rolling hills. Everything's green. It's just beautiful. Guys, Tennessee is blowing up right now. People are tired of living in New York and California and some of these other northern states, and they're leaving in droves. Okay. Today, I updated my electoral college map. House. So this was 2012. So we had a census in 2020. So see this, Texas had 38. Now it's got 40. So every number we add to these is about 800,000 people. Okay. So basically, 1.5 billion people moved to Texas over a 10-year period. California lost at least 800,000 people. Where are they moving? To Montana, Oregon. People are leaving Illinois. People are leaving Ohio. People are leaving Michigan. People are leaving Pennsylvania. People are leaving New York. People are moving south and west. Okay? So that's the current, all right, electoral college map. So when you go to campaign for president, you got to win 270 of these. 270 is the magic number. Okay? Tennessee, even though it didn't gain one, it will. Next census. Okay. Like my sister said, there's just droves of people moving to Tennessee. Okay. Even her area. Okay. The cost of living is a big part of that. Right? You guys know how good we have it in Wichita? The cost of living? Because we have one of the lowest costs of living in the country in Wichita, Kansas. Seriously. Okay. Now, in the South, it tends to go down a little bit more, like places like Mississippi, Alabama. But it depends on where you live in Alabama. It's like Kansas City, Kansas is expensive. Okay. Hays, Kansas is not. Okay. But like Montana right now, the cost of living is crazy because they have so many people moving in there and buying all the houses, and they're willing to pay more for them. And people are willing to sell their houses for more, you understand? And so the cost of living keeps going up. I have a cousin in Bozeman, Montana, and they've talked to just about how crazy the expensive it has gotten to live there. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting thing. These dams are all still here. Most of them, I think they're all still here. And a lot of people are moving here. There's a lot of industry moving to northern Alabama, Huntsville. They make cars there now. Okay, Birmingham, Alabama, they make cars now. South Carolina is growing. A lot of industry moving there. Okay, so it's interesting to see this. Okay, and they have water because of these reservoirs. Okay, so as we move through this, if you're going to do more with farming, you need more fertilizer to help with that. So the government took two World War I munitions plants where they used to make bombs for World War I and convert them to fertilizer factories. So farmers would have cheap water and cheap fertilizer. Okay. Now, some people didn't like this because coal miners were producing electricity. but the government was coming in with all this hydroelectricity and undercutting them. Private companies had fertilizer, but the government came in and built these two massive fertilizer factories undercutting them. So some people felt like the government was competing unfairly with private businesses here. So not everybody liked it, okay? But again, who cares? We're trying to help people, right? How much time we got? 5 minutes? Okay. Once you get that down, I'm just going to go to the next slide. I'll let you write it down tomorrow. We're going to have the long class tomorrow, while everybody else is 35 minutes. Every class tomorrow is 35 minutes. Okay, except ours. Lucky you. You're notable. You're notorious. Isn't that like the big B.I.G. Notorious? B.I.G., right? Yeah, he's notorious. He's also dead. That dude got shot. Didn't he? Yeah. East Coast, West Coast? Yeah. I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I'm up on it. I like the B.I.G. man. He did that song, it's a video with he's in a boat. What's that song? Huh? Yeah, Hypnotize. Yeah, that's good, man. You like that, Mikey? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I like Eminem. I like his beat. You know what I mean? I don't always like the lyrics, but the beat, I like. Yeah. Okay. Good here? Almost good here? Hey, how many of you guys ever seen the movie Blindside? Michael Orr, Blindside. About the football player that gets raised by a white family. Okay, that's Michael Orr. Now, you may have heard there's some fighting going on with the family. Okay, did you hear about that? It's ugly. It sucks. Because it's such a beautiful story, and then reality set in, it's kind of ugly. Now, I've tried to hear the whole story here. You know, they did the movie, but the family really didn't make a lot of money on the movie and the book. And they said they gave Michael his cut. Now, he was an NFL player for more than a decade, so he wanted his cut of the film. They split it between their kids, them, and Michael. Now, they never actually adopted. And that was kind of the thing. Like, I think a lot of people were led to believe that they adopted. And they never did. Okay, it was, there's a legal term. Okay, but I think he was already 18. So they didn't adopt him. Okay, so he grew up in what were called the what? The hood. Okay, more specifically, the projects. Okay, and guys, in this country, you don't have to write these down today. We'll get them tomorrow, okay? In this country, in the 1930s and 40s, housing was a big problem, as it is today, okay? So we built these projects. That's where the name comes. These are housing projects. And the nickname just kind of stuck, and they became known as the projects. Now, in the South, where I grew up, we called them the quarters. Okay, which, like, if you're in the military, they say return to your quarters. Okay, I didn't know any of this history back when I was living in the South, but they look different. So, like this is like they look like apartments. They're all brick. These are all brick. If you go over by the West Y over here, you'll notice some small houses. They're all the exact same, usually out of brick. Okay. Those are housing projects in Wichita, and they're kind of spread out in different parts of Wichita, depending on where you are, okay? And this is what's called Section 8 housing today, or government subsidized housing. So the government pays part of the rent. You pay part of the rent, the government pays part of the rent, okay? This is Queensbridge in Queens, New York. Okay, this housing project had, you don't have to write all this down, okay? This had 3,142 apartments in it. Now, if you average 3 to 4 people in each apartment, that's between 10 and 12,000 people that all share what in common? They're all poor. So when you put all your poor people in a small area like this, what's going to happen? What does happen is crime. Okay? This is not a great place to raise a child, yet many do. Okay? So as we move through, like this was condemned. This was built in 1939. This has been torn down. A lot of these Cabrini Green in Chicago finally tore it down. High rises. Watts in LA, huge housing project, torn down. Okay? Atlanta was the first major city to really start to address this problem of housing all your poor people in one location. Okay? So they started spreading out their poor people into different parts of the city. Okay? So, yeah, I probably don't have time to talk about all this, but I'll get into it a little bit more tomorrow about how we can be smarter about this, like learn from history about how we deal with Section 8 housing and subsidized housing. Okay? Good?